Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever una day in the world. So this is Mr. Shilon again with a host and with a co-host of today and a guest playing both roles by the name of Mr. Victor Mangot. And today we want to talk about the recent incident in the parliament, the confusion will take place there, where we ordinarily, in the common language, would infect in the parliament. So we'll get for touch on that. We touched on that last week. People seem for very much interested in the topic. So we want to talk some more about that and expand some of the ideas then as to how we parliament for run efficiently and some of the things then, if the government is interested, why I say the government, not only the ruling party, but the opposition, if they are interested in making things workable, or if we just could get this seesaw or tit for tat. Now, as usual, when I know this show is about common interest, Sierra Leone first. So we want people in where they call in, and when I know it's in a live show, so you can call, you can send comments, written comments, you can with a broadcast by over WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So when I get access to the show, now all the medium there were just named. So please, when I know the basic rules, the rule is call, ask questions, give an opinion, just be respectful to fellow callers as well as the host. And we too are under the same obligation to treat everybody we call, whether we disagree with that caller there or not, with the respect and the kind of decorum we want in the show. We not get space or place for anybody calling and using insulting language, because that not they help the country, not they help well. We try to talk to each other, not at each other. All right, so we also get certain phone numbers then, we call as them for always know, for reach we. So to start with, we get a toll-free number. We're in a 1-866-944-7722. 9-866-944-7722. Then we get, if you call from UK, United Kingdom, England, you could call, the number could be +44 2080891455. +44 2080891455. If you call from Australia, you can call +61 290984 +61 290984 And of course, if they call on WhatsApp, the number now 1-343-997-5828. 1-343-997-5828. Also, for making you know, my co-host, Ms. Fadima, is not here today, but it's possible she may appear. If he appear, we're not going to know instantly, but she's not here today, and she may not be here for the next 2-3 weeks. So I just want to let you know, for those of you who are fans of Ms. Fadima, you still can continue for call and watch the program. Also, we start late today because of the Senegal-England game, soccer, World Cup soccer game. Because we know say a lot of people or then soccer enthusiasts, they're going to watch the game worldwide. So as a courtesy to we listeners then and we audience, we decide to say we'll start the show a little late or later, just so we can accommodate people in way they want for watch the game. I included, myself, we want to watch the game too. So that said, we're going to get started. Now, before we get to the main topic, which is what I just mentioned to Ona about the parliament and parliamentary uh, fete and couscous and confusion, before we get to that, and then make some analysis, some of the mistakes then, because we will get for point outs certain things then we the sergeant at arms in the parliament not do right, certain things then what we think say the speaker of the house not do right, certain things then what we think say the clerk of the house not do right, and then certain things then what we think say not supposed to happen when parliament get in confusion here. And also for reminder now, not justifying parliament and behavior, but it look like maybe people in the copy that because there are quite a few places then where the parliament then seem for going to blows. So I don't know whether because Sierra Leoneans will like for copy, but so I don't know whether that's not part of the motivation by some members of parliament for start taking matters into their hands. But parliament by itself gets rules for self-police themselves. So you would think every member of parliament go adhere to their rules then they and try for resolve things in a civil manner rather than this physical confrontational way what we see. But we're not a good example and for picking them where they tell and say fighting not good, this is not good, but we get people at high levels, they resort into violence. So we go for both the opposition and the government party. Of course, the government party tend for always claim innocence, but they usually parties to the commotions where they take place in the country. They know they conduct themselves the way they also conduct themselves. Then they go and blame the other side. So that said, one more issue is we can like for bring one or two things to the attention of the public. So many things happen, but the public sometimes need for know certain things. And I have always been, well, I'm a great advocate of the appropriate use of police power. I'm also a great advocate of saying the police should not be a part of the politics of Sierra Leone. The police, then, are civil servants. They are not there to support or promote the interests of any political party, whether or not the party they in power, whether or not the party they in power. But we don't see for so many years, going way back to the Albert Magai time, and we need to keep reminding people them. Because this is the, you see, when things get out of hand, we look at the result, but we don't want to deal with the cause. Sir Albert can with the libel case where they take arrest opposition members them as well as journalists and lock them up and make it criminal where you write something against the government. And that go through the Shaka Stephen era, it go through the Momo era, it go through the Kaba era, it go through the Aneskuruma era. So much to the credit of Bio or President Bio, President Bio, for good reasons, I believe, she say that not conducive to the overall well-being of the country and that democratic, so he abolish them. But unfortunately, when President Bio creates some abolition of that law, then they replace them with this cyber law, where somehow, or they pass the cyber law, where to me the cyber law is being misused in doing then unlawful arrest them. So now that we see the go on. Now there is this video where they go around, just for cut long matter short, because this reflects back on the August 10 incident where there is tendency to accuse the citizens them of being violent. And some of us are saying the violence was on both sides, citizens as well as the police. So now we're seeing a situation where there is this a video we'll play about a raid that was conducted na Ferry Junction, na some markets we call Peace Market, na Eastern, where one thing led to another. Some lady who supposedly was the wife of one of the person where they say they go for go raid. She ended up down at the police station. There is mixed information. The police put out a press release saying she was not taken in, so we will still get for pursue. She was not taken into the station. She was outside. But there's other accounts say she was taken. She was arrested by the police, taken down to the police station, and one thing led to another, and she happened to collapse and die. All right, so when you hear news like that, the thing we need to try to remind people them is simple. Don't wait until it happens to you, because government, the police are part of government. Government get enormous power. Unless we call them out, unless we bring this out to the public, then go get out of hand. And you self will not say nothing. You and a party supporter, you don't know when you wear for your pikin or your uncle or your auntie or granny will become victim because of the excesses of police power. So now it is in all interest for we make sure say the police conduct themselves well, and then that the internal security unit go through some reassessment of how the police then use their power, because nobody is supposed to die when that person is under arrest, particularly a woman. And there was also allegation that she was pregnant, true or false. All of this will be determined later. But we just want to bring it to their attention. Make ask the control room for play a video what we receive, and then anybody will get additional information. Please feel free for send it to we. So if we give something we're not correct, we'll go retract what we say we're incorrect and state what we think say correct or what we know say correct. So, but we will play the video, let una see it, and then form an opinion. And we invite the public, please contact us, tell us if you know more or what you will left out, because this is good for we all. Because today now this woman, tomorrow it can be somebody else. I may not even go into the raid, because again, I always try to remind with people, we have a constitution. If the police they go raid a place, then forget search warrant. But then in the legal system get for handle that. The lawyers then get for be more vigilant. They owe an obligation to the country for all the government them feet to the fire. They know for just sit on this they happen. The other thing women think say just for educate the public, since we're in the process of education. I've always urged the legal profession to do more than they are doing. That the situation, no matter how bad it is not hopeless or helpless. That when these things happen, if we think say the police do not go above and beyond the authority, lawyers should start making good use of the legal system. In a constitutional democracy, you file what you call lawsuit. The police might have the right to arrest, but if they exercise illegal authority where they not get, then just get overzealous and create death or damage to property, they can be sued unless we begin for start them process there. So, and if you want to sue the police, there are ways you can do them. One, no lawsuit you go file without the chief of police being a defendant. So then the precinct where the person where creates the harm to the person, the chief of that precinct they for be a co-defendant. Then the actual police officers who actually dealt with that person should be co-defendants. So when you file a lawsuit, you put your name, because every lawsuit give caption. So let's say John Doe versus Chief IG Fire, for example, this is just example, and the precinct went and take the woman go, and then whoever authorized the raid. Now you can sue them individually and severally, meaning you can sue them one by one, which means every one of them will be forced to get a lawyer for defend them. Okay? Then you go sue them collectively. So usually the government might defend the group, but they might not be able to defend, they might not be able to, they will provide legal representation for the group, but they might not, because there are two lawsuits in one. You just sue them individually and as a group. So what is going to happen now, you go file a lawsuit where go encourage or discourage them police officers there. If every one of them, let's say if there are 10 officers, they are named defendants in the lawsuit, what will happen is that every one of them will be forced to hire individual lawyers. And I don't think the government is obligated for provide a separate lawyer for each one of them, because if they go exercise authority, will not get them on their own. And no matter if you win or lose, see, because people can say, oh, not to the point that the point now accountability. So when you sue them, Chief Faye going to say, they're above the law. You can drag and go court. Now the power that they, as ordinary people, get, and the lawyers, they, of course, now then they get used to this mentality of suing. And now with lawyers in a salon, they get this understanding that it's not all hopeless. That there is a lot that ordinary citizens, particularly that profession, they can do for the ordinary people, So me, they urge that. Like recently, where I see Dr. Abdoulaye Conte and Mr. Kamara, Joseph Kamara, and they try to challenge the president in power for do certain things concerning the proportional representation. I was excited, not because of any reason, that we want to remind everybody that this is a country of laws, and get the Supreme Court and the judiciary busy. Because for too long, the Supreme Court not get that much activity. And I'm sure by now they are bored to death, because everybody, when you not get much for do, you can lose your efficiency. So we need for keep with judges then going, with Supreme Court judges then, with some of them cases there. Don't worry about how they rule. We don't, you see, history could judge them. History could judge them harshly or kindly. When we get the Sam Sumana case, where we all know anybody, you don't even get to be a lawyer, where they orchestrate and divert and misdirect the Constitution, for give President Nkrumah the power, say he can fire or sack an elected vice president. You're not going to be a lawyer for no, say that is grossly illegal. Whatever come over them judges then they, or whatever undue influence was used on them to have come up with such a terrible, terrible decision, well, it's with them. History will judge them. As the three judges, where if you'll say a president will get a personal beef with a vice president for go as far as turning the Constitution upside down. But that said, we will not give up hope. So every time when the government step out of line, you bring them in line by going to court. So I give kudos to Dr. Abdoulaye Conte and Joseph Kamara for going to court, even though on the flip side, I get serious reservation. These are two very talented lawyers, Dr. Abdoulaye Conte and Joseph Kamara. Yeah. But these lawyers no go unnoticed, because they too have not been the kind of people them where these are people, let me just put it mildly, they could have done better for Sierra Leone. They too have caused some harm, but they can redeem themselves by doing what they need to do so. Because we know the political story of Sierra Leone. And I make, every time I talk to one, they say, there is a thing called integrity. You can get all the PhDs in the world. You can go the best universities, the Oxford, the Cambridge, the Harvard, Indian Institute of Technology, you can go MIT, you can go University of California at Berkeley. But if integrity is lacking, that degree that you get is worthless. It's totally worthless. So we remind our brothers and sisters that we get all them PhDs here, where they somehow drop their integrity if they had it once. Let them go back and look who said and drop it and pick them up. Because much is expected of you guys. You know, you can't be doing this kind of disservice to the country and we keep giving high praises. So, but for Dr. Abdullah Conte and Mr. Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara for taking upon themselves for move some of the challenges there. Because here we get ordinary citizens arguing among themselves, parliamentarians arguing among themselves, and about whether the president get the power, whether the president not get the power for due proportional representation, not for due proportional representation. But is it not easy and that make we get a judiciary? Take the matter to court. Let them be the final arbiter of, because that's what the democracy is all about, you know, and that's what the judiciary is set for. So please, I strongly encourage you now, when this kind of arrests they take place, it's time for the police to be dragged to court. Just file 2-3 lawsuits. You will see everything will slow down, you know. But until then, I know this is new in our country because we lawyers are now exposed to that kind of system. But not to we suggest them take a constitutional system and then somehow somebody decides, say, we want a republican system, we want a constitutional government. Well, constitution, and the supreme law of the land. So when the police is not allowed to violate them, the president not allowed to violate the constitution, parliament is not allowed to violate the constitution. So whenever anyone and they step out of line, drag them to court. So that's it. So make I ask the control room for please play that video there for we. Let we see, let the people know what we talk about this woman where they say die in police custody. The police then deny say not in custody. She was outside and a man be there with them. So
hello everybody. I come for you a very sad news where I hear this afternoon. I believe say most of you go down, they hear this news, they fly on social media. Somebody called me this afternoon and it was a distress call where they explained to me concerning this lady within my back. So in Taiwan, this lady goes by the name Mabinti. Police then go to the area yesterday for go raid day. Nada Ferry Junction area. I made for understand say they even enter inside them place then go search day. I don't know what happened at that area day. We make police go search day yesterday. But this lady, I made for understand say them want for take in bag in hand. After they don't do then search, they don't see nothing. But the lady not agree for give him back because he began money inside the way 4 million. Then decide for say, well, they will carry this lady go on a station together with the bag. He tell them say, well, in a belly woman, if they feel bad right now, you're not going to go any side. I made for understand say them force him, then take him by force and go with him at Ross Road Police Station. And eventually he died in the hand yesterday evening. He died in a custody. If this is true, then I am disappointed in the Sierra Leone police. And this is disheartening. And the IG need for take prompt action against the police personnel and they were involved in this particular incident. Una motuna force for good. We mean say, una there for protect lives and property, not for violence people, not for kill people. It is wrong, especially a woman. I also want to bring this to the notice of the First Lady of this country, Fatima Bio. You need for take action for this woman. We don't die, so we need for know what happened. It's not correct. Now the reason this make something happen in this country, when are they police them, people and they go and fend on host them, fend on barracks them. Because we not get good relationship with the people them. And it's not good. We are not professional at all in discharging on our duties. This is wrong in all uncertain terms. The government of Sierra Leone need for take note of this. And we need for you from the police media team concerning what happened to this lady. It's not good. How Belle woman, when I go take Belle woman, go to her custody, they die there. The same thing will happen some time ago. Now one tongue, now the northern region, then old one lady go to him. A pikin die in her hand, na cell. These things not supposed to happen.
All right. So when I diary, what happens? So anybody will get any additional information, either as this show the progress, we want to make we add to the information we will pass out. Please give us a call at the numbers them we I don't mention. So because we're just doing a public service for try for pass information that some people may not have had, and so we will want for make una tell we which in the go on. If we know any additional information, we will able give una. Okay, and I think that the Ferry Junction Police then called the Harbor Police Division Operations Team. So we go like for no, and we go really ask, we respectfully request the police for feel free for contact we, and if they get anything within think say or any statement that has been made within think say not accurate with respect to their complicity or their involvement in this woman in Taiwan, please give us a call so we'll get not only one own version, but we'll get the correct version of what happened. All right? So that's that for now. We move to the main topic for today. The main topic for today, we be done talk say, and last week we deal with the situation where happened a week before concerning Parliament, the commotion will take place there. And so there are the ways that they use for resolve the problem were unparliamentary. Because the Parliament itself, where they accuse people of being rebel rousers or trouble causers, Parliament itself not seem for follow their own rule or not seem for know their own rule. So we just want to touch on some of the issues. Then again, if we state anything where Parliament feels say is wrongly stated, they owe a duty to the public, just like I would try for do. We don't owe a duty. We on duty now for just give accurate information to the best of we knowledge or ability. But Parliament, then they represent the people. So if something happened there, where we say nothing happen or we wanna not handle right, call and send a representative to this network so that we can tell the public also we go wrong, what in wanna do right, and so on. But sometimes I think this is an open invitation, but I know what's going to happen. Nobody's going to call because when I not think say una accountable to anyone because when I get the power. But I strongly encourage you now for please give us a call from the speaker on down if you think say we state anything, because we'll go make some analysis today. We'll go cast the speaker, the sergeant at arms, the clerk, and some other guys them were all position at Parliament. They go cast them in a bad light because we expect people in all them position there for act above anything else. They're not for fall below our expectation. So that said, as I say earlier, my co-host today and my guest today, now Mr. Victor Mengot. Mr. Mengot done introduce himself last week, but I will not attempt for introduce him. I go ask him to introduce himself, and then we can go from there.
Well, fumble them in a good evening once more. I don't count in me in a Victor Akumengot. Somebody we don't get a lot of experience in parliament, not just in mostly in the UK, but also in other African countries, the parliament where I help them for make laws, mostly to deal with traffic and transportation. So we talk why they can't talk today. Now a follow-up of what we've been dealing with last week when the fracas in parliament. For start, and also I will try for explain to people then the roles of individuals in the parliament and also the different arms of parliament, especially the committee them. Waiting at the different committee them, waiting at their responsibility, waiting at the members their responsibility, waiting at the chair responsibility. And in particular, we will delve into the speaker in report where he don't publish, make your own decision. And then we see whether then decision they follow natural justice. For start, I can like for give people a background. The word parliament, it comes from a French word, French term, parler, which is to talk. Parler. So when people are in a parliament, for let them get their own opinion and that of the people the way they represent, they get for be articulate. They're for able to talk, explain themselves. They not for begin shout, not for begin bang table, not for begin Allah, because parliament get rules. How members then for behave, especially when they in that well of parliament. So we don't see them beaucoup them where parliament don't turn like marketplace. You know, one side they sing, the other side they sing. You know, for happen. So without going further with them background here, let's go to the speaker in report we give. 19 paragraph, which he published. And before we talk about the speaker in report, there's certain them and individuals them we get responsibility in a parliament as defined by the constitution. The speaker, law starter. The speaker nine are the referee. And it then house. Now in the call Uda for talk. Now they make the rules. Now they decide if anybody do anything way or use any language way unparliamentary. Now in the give that people there, that person they say, well look, you either withdraw the language there or you leave the house. You leave the chamber. And when he asks you for leave the chamber, the person where he call now the sergeant at arms. The sergeant at arms, nine they in charge of security. And let's get the background because we need for know how we get in time then they. Because the sergeant at arms, now an office where we take from the British Parliament. And why then get a sergeant at arms? In the past, the British Parliament would have been there before. When member then get kuskas, people then they go with sword in the parliament. So then go draw swords. So now the sergeant at arms now get for control and during then days and if you go to parliament with your weapon, you get for go keep on your locker. So now make so that name this is sergeant at arms. Now they control the security in the parliament and make sure say we're going to interact waiting the speaker and rule and say people will not come into parliament with weapons. Because all that they are the speaker in ruling. Because they talk about say people from the gallery being throw daggers. Let's start by how the speaker explained. The speaker said, when the parliamentary sitting starts, the deputy minister of justice, who is also attorney general, can lay some paper in the parliament. When I can say lay some paper in the parliament, that now if you want to make law, the law go on day where they can present unto parliament. But before that, the law say both in the Constitution and the laying of statutory instruments under the Act in 1999, certain things that we there for do. Number one, you get for publishing a gazette, the government gazette, a day before the lay that paper day or the same day. And before you do that, you get for the clerk of parliament, because now you're the administrator. That clerk of parliament will receive them, inform the speaker, then they get a committee where they call the Standing Orders Committee, and the business of the House Committee, when they determine whose business parliament for do that day. So rightfully, on that day before parliament start, then publish them, now the Standing Order Committee say government, they bring these two instruments. But waiting have been the problem from other evidence, they will get video evidence, which we want let parliament for correct for we, because we want let them correct them. Then say they not be even gazetted before they take and go. And it means if you not gazette them, you're not supposed for lay their instrument then they in parliament. We want clarification from that. Because after that, we see gazette notice. But we don't know whose term then gazette them. Whether they been done the day before, or the same day, or then do as an afterthought. Then
If I may interrupt you, sir. If I may interrupt you,
Yeah.
Gazette, you can tell we watching Gazette. I know it's in a publication, but just tell the public.
Okay, Gazette now an official document for government. Where Gazette, that document they now government printers and the printer. Waiting kid in a Gazette. Gazette now like where government want make law. They want tell people them whose kind of law they want make. So the public go know. Say now this law they want make, and anybody go get access to them. So if they get any issue with that law, they can send representative to the member of parliament. Also, the Gazette, the second purpose of the Gazette, now advertise certain government jobs them, public servant jobs them. Then the third part, when they make appointments, now senior position, now they then they put them the notice for let the public know say Mr. A or Mrs. Y, they not appoint them to certain position. So I can make an short say the Gazette, now the government in mouthpiece in print. So let people understand that.
Yeah.
So now that's the one issue. But I'll go back to the speaker in report. According to the speaker, he said when the government bench or the minister can present the document, the leader of government business and the chief whip from the opposition, Hassan Sise, now Hassan Sise object. He objects say they not for lay the document. Probably for some of these reasons that were not mentioned earlier. I need parliament to confirm or deny. Then also, the leader of government, when Honorable Martin Numa, say no. Then for lay the document. Then the speaker said, okay, he no go allow any discussion on whether or not for lay the document till they don't lay the document, then they go into debate. Again, it can't and trust, because we will say parliament na parallel, then get for talk. There's been a distrust in parliament between both the leading opposition and the political party. Because even in the speaker in speech, or in report, what he said this is now the third term where Allah they be in a parliament. And all that he blame on the opposition. The first one, now the term where they for appoint himself the speaker, where parliament just starts. And that time the other side come, they say some people and they get court case against them, court injunction, where the injunction they not allow them for take part in the proceedings. The other side have set kuskas, confusion B, and that makes so we get both the speaker and the deputy speaker, where the other one they don't work out and come from the government side. And not only that, during that 10 day, most of the key committees them be allocate them to the ruling party. But we'll go to that section where they talk about how for reform parliament towards the end. But the question is, does our parliament need an urgent reform? So that is the issue. So once that happen, we get the video, we not sure. One of the opposition leader then go for the mace. The mace now like that staff when I get authority in parliament. So and then he say once the mace not in place, parliamentary proceedings not take place. Then after that incident day, one side then get them big flower vase, where the 2 flower vase where they value at $2,000. The opposition side send them go by the MP then at the government side. Then the government side send them back. And even in the speaker report, he said the 2 sides, he not say one side, he said the 2 sides were throwing the vase at each other. So don't get any clear. So if they throw a vase on one side, if the other side they then hold that vase there, for stop that, let them not use it as a weapon, then they behave exemplary. But if they say send them back, so they say you can equally blame. So now the first part down there, then the speaker say, what do you do? And as I said the last time, when then thing and they happen, the speaker get right according to parliamentary rules and procedure for adjourn parliament temporarily for cool the situation. But the speaker say he not be able to control the situation. He may get for seek refuge in chambers, and in chambers they outside the well of parliament. And according to the moment the speaker left and go out, parliament sitting automatically for stop. But did it stop there? No. They don't take the other person who involved, the man who in charge of security, the sergeant at arms. I watched a program, I think it was on SLBC, where one of the opposition members they said, even the sergeant at arms take part by the kuskas. They take object, he stone one of their own member then. That's what he said. And it's on record. So the man when I for separate fete, when I in charge of security, if he's involved in the fracas, it means that man don't violate your office. Because he should be the peacemaker. Now then the other thing will happen, then calling the police. Yes, if the sergeant at arms are able to quell the situation, if they call the police, now for let the police then come, let them come bring order, because they need law enforcement. But not for let them say, we see the video where when the speaker don't come out, we not see the speaker at all. The clerk now take charge. And the clerk, now mean they tell the police for get them out, cordon the place, let them lay this instrument power. So the question will go ask, if the speaker not been there, that means parliament not been the seat. Even then at the chamber where they lay them paper then there, and if you not been there, then them paper they not lay properly. I stand to be corrected. So that's not the scenario, not the scene will happen. Right? So we have to take roles and responsibility. Then after that, the clerk giving report, he give estimates of all rating damage. And he put them public. He make them public. By right, it's an investigation. Because parliament like a court. The speaker get a power of judge where they collect evidence before you even charge somebody. The lawyer then will correct me if I'm wrong. They put that evidence there out in public. So what should have happened? The clerk, being the head of administration, before request the sergeant of arms, being the head of security, for give a security or what you call situational report. Then the clerk will now compile a report and give the speaker. So at the next session where parliament resume, now the speaker for make that report now. So already there is a failure of procedure. Because the clerk make the report, he put her all over before the speaker, when I'm in charge, make his own report. And we'll go into the speaker report in detail, which is just a mirror of what the clerk say. And now say what's wrong with that. We for bear in mind, say, we go back to constitution, we get constitution. Because under the constitution, it say, now parliament, the clerk of the house is a public servant. But now the president, they appoint her on the advice of the public session. So here we are. That's where the first problem lies. Who they ask this question? Is there an urgent need for a reform? So here you have a public servant who is a key player in the legislature, which is another arm of government. Then you get the executive, the president, the appointer. In all the country them, when we know, as a Commonwealth Parliamentary Association of which we are a member, because we get the African chapter self, we've been going to tongue. The government or the executive not get no business with the appointment of the clerk of the house. Clerk of the house is a public servant, and normally he get to go through a lot of training. If you don't start as a junior clerk, he go through all the rigors of that training then when he come by appointment, then he go through the Public Service Commission for let them interview him, not in one, because you get several senior clerk, and then make the appointment and parliament approve. President not get for do nothing with the appointment of the clerk. But I'm not saying what he did was wrong. What I'm saying is the way we constitution make her. So that's an area for reform. So these are the issues. Then the speaker make longer quotation of rules and regulations, right? Which he was right. Because he referred to the constitution, he referred to the standing orders. And let me explain to people that are waiting at standing orders. Standing orders and procedures for parliament. Beaucoup de time people then hear where parliament say one MP go come, he say, Mr. Speaker, SO 18, SO 43, now their own language. When he say SO 18, standing order 18, now he deal with how you delay statutory instruments in parliament. Then you also get standing order number 70, we talk about contempt of parliament. But one of the things where the speaker clearly bring out is that you get some other side where they argue, say, if any parliamentarian do anything, you not get right for arrest them with the parliament. And the speaker clarify, and I agree with him clarification. Because that rule in there, it not deal with unruly behavior, like what they do. It deal with somebody where they disrupt parliament by the action or where they tell and say sit down, not agree sit down. And it's also the speaker say the framers of the constitution not be expect honorable members them for fetching a parliament. So they not been put any ruling for deal with where feds take place. Then at the time also, the clerk also contact the police for release the three people them where and say bear the greatest responsibility. And again at the names of them people and they, yeah, for in a record. Now, Honorable Aaron Aruna, constituency 048, APC. Honorable Lahai Mara, constituency 042, APC. Honorable Abdul Karim Kamar, constituency 059, APC. So now them people and they, then bear the greatest responsibility, according to the clerk and everything. But waiting at the speaker and ruling on that for police involvement. The speaker say, in they handle the matter, and he go refer the matter to the committee of privilege. And whilst the committee of privilege therefore take action against the members and they, courts not for investigate again. He saying at that time the lawyer then call double jeopardy. I think say Mr. Chilowin and lawyer just throw some light on that before we continue. Because the speaker mentioned that double jeopardy.
Well, technically speaking, simply speaking, double jeopardy now when any time for you punish you twice for the same offense or the same crime where you don't pay. But then they come from the system now because we get state system, we get a federal system. And sometimes some people can commit certain crimes where the state don't prosecute you for. Then the federal government won't prosecute you for the same thing. So there are exceptions to that. Sometimes if you action violative of state offenses and simultaneously federal offenses, then they can prosecute you under both jurisdictions. That state will try you in a state court. They can convict you for the crime. Then the federal government can try you in a federal court, but they're not going to convict you for the crime with the state. They'll convict you of, then will convict you, or then will find you guilty, or then will try you for a crime where you commit with violative of federal statute. But if the person is being tried in federal court after being convicted in state court, that person, if the federal government want to try on the same law and offenses where they try them for in a state court, that will be tantamount to double jeopardy because it's being tried for the same offenses. So you can do certain wrongs, what will be violative of both sides of the federal government and the state government, and they can convict you of both. And the law say it's not going to be double jeopardy. Double jeopardy will only arise when they charge you of a crime and you've been convicted or be acquitted of that crime there, and then the federal government won't take upon itself for charge you and try you for the same offense. So double jeopardy is somehow a kind of limited to America then jurisprudence, because we not seem to forget instances in which double jeopardy will easily arise. But I can see the extrapolation of the speaker using the phrase, because I don't think say double jeopardy attaches when it doesn't rise to having been charged with a crime. That only comes about when you have been charged. So the double jeopardy may be prematurely used at this point. But I know where the speaker is coming from. That
Okay,
if the
that's fine.
police
So
go ahead.
in parliamentary terms, for putting it in parliamentary context, there are people and they when they talk say, well, look, since the parliament administrator with the clerk involved been they call police for investigate. In fact, the opposition says some of the members them in hiding because they were arrested. Because the CID director write to the speaker say for release the member then they, so then go charge them. So the speaker now say no, because they are not too clear when we parliamentary rules and constitution when FET come out for deal with them, let parliament deal with them. Because under the constitution, parliament get right for make rules of how then they operate. Apart from the standing orders, then we then get, because the standing order now give rules for everything. And that standing order, if you look at any standing order, when are the rules, it relates to a particular section na the constitution. So in order not the way they go make, or rules parliament go make, with the outside the requirement of the constitution, when are the principal law or the primary law na the country. So now that, but the speaker also say, the one then we been there, na the gallery, where in parliamentary term, they call them strangers. Strangers normally na somebody we not to either a parliamentary employee or an MP where they visit the precincts of parliament. And there are several reasons where people can go parliament. One, you can go meet your MP. Two, you want to go listen debate. Three, you want to go listen to committee. So now look at the committees then. Waiting do they get committee then a parliament? Now because it's so big, certain things then they way they want to do, we rather than get the full parliament, they get committee then. And you get three types of committee. You get what you call standing committee, within a day na the constitution, then at the committee where they deal with legislation, they already deal with finance, they already deal with public appointment, they already deal with foreign affairs and international relations, public accounts. Then the one committee we want to talk about here, now the committee of privilege. And the committee of privilege, waiting now in your role. The committee of privilege, normally you get 16 members then, according to the requirement. And then 16 they come from both all parts of the, like now we'll get 4 main parties, the NGC, C4C, SLPP, APC, they all for be represented in the committee of privileges. And what's the committee of privilege the role? Right? One,
Yeah.
now then they oversee and uphold the privileges and laws and customs of the house, the customs and tradition. Yeah? Now then they say, whose kind standards members they for meet in terms of their behavior. Then think they like way they shout now at the house, or now then get all that role. And the third role now for investigate and case of contempt of parliament or breach of parliamentary privilege. So, la make them, la example of them two things in there. When they say contempt of parliament, now when speaker tell you for behave, you not behave, or you accuse another member, you call it for layman, they ask you for withdraw the statement, you refuse, then a contempt of parliament. But when you talk about privileges of parliament, because the law say parliamentarians then they're there for represent the people. So if you're not parliamentarian, you use that your position there for get pecuniary advantage, that you abuse your privilege. Let's give an example of that. Let's say you're not parliamentarian. Now make sure in the British Parliament, where you're not parliamentarian, and you didn't come. If, like, say, you're a non-executive director of a company, then that company, the issue come before Parliament. You get for declare, so you get interest in that company there. And you not go take part in any decision we then take about that company. So, because if you do that, you abuse the privilege because they use the parliamentary privilege for influence any decision where they make about that company under investigation. So that the difference between breach, contempt, and breach of parliamentary privilege. So now let's go back to the speaker in ruling.
May I interrupt you,
With
sir?
all this,
1 second. Let me just
okay,
interrupt you. Let me just announce to the audience that the lines are open. Please feel free to call if you get any question or you get any suggestion or you get any contribution for make. So I yield back to you, Mr. Mengot.
okay. So now, what is wrong with the speaker making a ruling and the way he make the ruling? Number one, the matter is under investigation, right? Although they get video evidence, we all see it. But we all see and say not to one side fet come out, then fet both sides. And under we law, where things say parliament self get for uphold, even in criminal law, they say innocent until proven guilty. That is the basic tenet of we law. Innocent until proven guilty. So now, if the speaker, based on the clerk in report, don't identify them people there, then he don't say them for all them responsible. Why now invite the committee of privilege? Because the committee of privilege now then therefore investigates the matter based on evidence. The written report by the speaker, the written report by the clerk, the written report by the sergeant of arms, and other video evidence. And when you're under investigation, right, the committee of privilege then therefore reports their findings within 30 days. So then they do the investigation, they report their findings within 30 days. Well, who are the people they
Mr.
wait
Mengot, well, let
Yeah.
me also ask you, when they get for submitting a report within these 30 days, are they submitting the report to the clerk or to the entire parliament?
No, the report therefore go to the entire parliament,
Okay.
not to the clerk.
Okay. And not the clerk. I meant the
version-
speaker, actually. No, I meant the speaker, not the clerk. I'm sorry.
No,
I
not to
told
the
you.
speaker. The committee na a
Okay.
mini version of parliament. So when they do the report, that report, for record purposes, will be submitted to the clerk. Because I'm the administrator. The clerk will notify the speaker. And the speaker now will make sure when the business committee meet, that they talk about how for go waiting the can at the parliament business, they allocate a day where the full parliament, the plenary session, they discuss that report day and the findings of the report and pass a judgment. So that is the procedure we for follow. And when you can put that 30 days day, it gets a meaning. Because in our constitution, because already the speaker get right for stop the members them where they identify the accused, as we can put on there, the alleged perpetrators. He get right for make them withdraw from parliament. Right? Whilst investigations are going on. But if you look at other parts of the constitution, any parliamentarian will not there in sitting for 30 days automatically losing seat. Then that makes so when they make that rule.
Any exception?
Huh?
Is there
There's
any
no
exception?
The only exception if it's ill health, it's ill health. And if it's ill health, incapacitated, you get for produce medical report for show say now something make you not able attend parliament for that time day. Or like say you get a family member, your spouse was sick. You get for go out, go look after them. You can write and inform parliament and tell them, say, well, look, give me personal circumstance. I need permission for day away for parliament for this number of sittings. Those are the only exceptions.
Well, let me just bring this up as a matter of discussion. You remember when we get a COVID, when planes were grounded worldwide for quite a while, and some people were stuck in different countries. Let's say if you were a parliamentarian, well, then a circumstance, you not get anything to do with ill health, but this was on full occurrence, preventing you from making it back to your home country in more than 30 days. The problem here is if it's in the Constitution, and if those are the only exception, you get a problem.
No, I'm not saying they are the only exception. I'm just saying I give example of exceptions. But if you take the COVID example, two things might happen. We go justify your absence. Number one, at the time, we had a state of public emergency in our country.
All right.
Secondly, if you did abroad, like say you can Britain, we will be there Britain, we know. Waiting a lockdown. Even America itself, I know say some state then they will lock you down for they even fine you if you're gonna treat. Only for essential things. So there's circumstances and you get now called a mitigating circumstance.
Yeah.
It can clear you. So now the two people that were the head that committee of privileges then which is fine. Now Honorable PC Sheriff Ali Badara. Then in deputy now Honorable PC Matilda Yaya Lansana Mara. So you can see say this is one thing I'm glad for that committee of day. Now paramount chief them bring for Adam deputy and other the chairman and the deputy. But again, the lacuna there is that we normally say we paramount chief then get for be neutral, right? But again, there's a convention that they must almost side the government of the day. See where the problem is?
Big problem. Big problem.
The government of the day wants something like this issue. The paramount chief, they don't go against them. So these are issues that need get back to we question on this debate. Does our parliament need urgent reform? Because that position of paramount chief and then committees there. So like now, let's read verbatim the speaker in recommendation, right? Where he make now report we publish. Then they under paragraph 19 of the report. And under that paragraph 19 there, he make your ruling. He say one, the first ruling of that report, the first ruling where he say under paragraph 19, it talk about the privileges of this house will be entirely ineffectual to enable to discharge its function if you not get power for punish people then. Yes, that's fine. But then it talk about under paragraph 20, we talk about standing order 43, we get in the power of a speaker for make ruling. In first ruling, it say Honorable Aaron Aruna Kuruma, Lai Mara, and Karim Abdul Karim Kamara shall withdraw indefinitely from all proceedings in the House. Not the word indefinitely. Does he have the power to tell them to withdraw indefinitely? Where the rules say the matter should be referred to the privilege committee and until that committee deliberates. So there's nothing indefinite about that. I hope you get me point, Mr. Sheila, with the use of language.
Yes, sir. Very much so.
Because when they say indefinite, you not put time limit.
Yeah.
right? He can say that
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
until
you're correct.
they're saying definitely for all procedure. But then he continue for qualifier, which I'll give him that credit. He said until a final determination is made by the House from the recommendations of the Committee of Privilege, to which their misconduct is hereby committed. Yeah. So you don't say then withdraw indefinitely.
But the language itself seems contradictory, because if they are suspended indefinitely, they cannot be suspended until an occurrence. Am I right or wrong?
Well, it comes to semantics and the double jeopardy thing as well.
Yeah, because
So
if either they're indefinitely suspended, or they are suspended until the occurrence of an event.
you could have said
You know,
suspended pending investigation by the privilege committee and a report and final decision by the full house. So
something
my
of that sort.
question is that's indefinite. But not to me the teacher English or na lawyer, me not to lawyer.
Oh, this has nothing to do with
Okay?
English. It has a lot to do with just what you would call, in the constitutional language, we will say contradictions, we will say vagueness. It has nothing to do with the grammar itself. It's a matter of the understanding of what is being and what the rules are saying. Because I could read that rule as, if I were a member of parliament, as being contradictory. Therefore, I'm not indefinitely suspended. I could understand to be that way. That's all I'm saying here.
Okay. Then it go on to say until then, all their privileges, immunities, remuneration, and allowances are withdrawn. So when you talk about immunities and all those things, allowances are withdrawn. Yes, if you're not a parliament, you're not a sitting, they're not going to pay you your allowance.
But what about the immunity? Isn't that questionable? The immunity?
That's another thing we can talk about.
Okay.
We'll leave that to the lawyers.
Okay.
Then, where I have problem, if you see number 2, it said that they pay equally to the parliament within 2 weeks the total amount of 380,000 new loans, being the cost of parliament properties damaged as a result of the attack. And he said if they fail to pay the said amount within time thus stipulated, that will be deducted from any gratuity to them at the end of the life of this fifth party. Listen to that. That penalty should be made after investigation privilege committee. So in other words, from my own understanding, he's preempting their investigation and final judgment.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Because if you don't make the result, then you give them 2 pay. So all we are thinking now, sometimes if you go to privilege committee, then we'll just rubber stamp what you say.
Precisely.
So there's where the procedure comes. First, you rubber stamp the speaker on, the clerk on, you put on your speech. Now you don't extend them by giving punishment, where all you should have done with the right way parliament due, constitution due. Now for suspended member they in parliament until they have faced the privilege committee, when they then go deliberate into the issue, taking all evidence, both video evidence. They also get for take statements from the witnesses, the accused. As you say in law, then get a term. Let the other side. Also, then get a Latin term.
Yep.
I don't forget that.
Yep.
Yeah. If you not hear the other side, they pass judgment on them. They will go back to your official, your opening statement will say, missiles them in the flow both sides. So now the one that we accuse now the missile been a bounce now wall like bouncing ball and come back.
And coming back to them here.
Yeah. So that's the question we get for ask.
And may I also ask you, sir, by him making this finding and recommendation, isn't that a preemption of the standing committee, the actual power to have made findings and make a recommendation? Because it preempts them. Because now the finding, the standing committee doesn't seem to have anything, the privilege committee doesn't seem to have anything left to do, because it usurp them power and preempts them.
You're correct to point, sir, and I stand challenge unless they tell me why that not for happen.
Yeah.
Because let's go back to this same privilege committee, because as a lawyer we deal with precedents as well, right? The
Yeah.
most recent case of people appearing before the privilege committee was two MPs then, Honorable Gevao and Honorable Tawa Conte. Gevao, they were both accused of bringing the house into disrepute. What was Gevao's crime? Or what was he being accused of? He was a whistleblower. He talked about corruption in parliament, right?
Yes.
So it was sent to the privilege committee for them to investigate in action. Okay, let's take the case of the other MP, Ibrahim Tawa Conte. What did he do? Tawa Conte was chairman of the Ethics Committee and Integrity Committee. He was cross-examining some government officials when one of the ministers interrupted him and said he had no right to cross-examine that official, those officials, and even saying, using the remark, "I'm the big boy in the house," to which Tawa Conte replied, "The only big boy here." We get for no say that particular phrase comes from one particular school, name withheld.
Okay.
So both of them went to the privilege committee, right? Tawa Conte, Gevao apologized and withdrew a statement. So he was let off. Tawa Conte refused. He stood his grounds, quoting the Constitution and all those things. What did they do? They sent him to the back benches. It's just like, like America, where they play American football, they send you going to the sin bin. So that was it. And if you look at the rules of the committee, it says when the committee make that rules, if within 7 days you not back down, apologize, then they can take action against you. What happened in that case? The jury is out. So these are the issues where they talk about how for fix to parliament and how you take decision. Then the next one, it said that with immediate effect, no strangers are be allowed into the gallery of the Well of Parliament, except through an official invitation from the office of the Speaker. And let me tell you where that problem comes, right?
Yeah.
My MP can invite me to Parliament if they go debate an issue will affect me in a constituency, right?
Yeah.
It makes it rigorous. That means if my MP will invite me, he can inform the Speaker, you understand? Tell us,
Yeah.
say, I want body. What if the Speaker say, I don't go give that invitation day? What happens then? So that's another issue we should think about.
Yep.
Yeah.
May I? Yes, sir. Please hold your thought, if you don't mind. Let me just digress. Let me just digress a little bit, because I think a couple of people raise a couple of questions. I just want to give a brief response to. One was, I
Yeah.
think somebody said, how can they go to court when I have always said the courts are not independent? I don't recall saying that. I always say if people don't even trust the court, they should go to courts because that's the only avenue left for people and for redress their grievances. I always encourage people and say, don't throw in the towel, don't give it up, because there is that all arms of government, when at the judiciary, when at the job for decide cases, what would they let them, when they make them do the work. And also they try for let people they know say, parliament not supreme, and that you can take like Dr. Adolai Conte and Mr. and Joseph Fitzgerald Kamara are doing now, or like how the Auditor General and lawyers they raise certain issues. So that's what I mean. I have never agreed that because people have say the courts are compromised, so we just abandon the courts and begin argue how do we resolve proportional representation among ourselves. If you not get a body, we'll go come with a definitive decision and make it the law of the land. So, I mean, how do we solve that? So the only avenue now for going to court. Then someone also called and asked, say, about the double jeopardy thing, that is it not true, or someone is come and say, is it not true that George Floyd was tried by the federal government and the state government? That's precisely the point I was making. It is not double jeopardy because he was tried by the state of Minnesota for criminal offenses, for murder, for different things, they're all in violation of state law. What the federal government prosecute him for, some of them act then they also constitute federal offenses. So the federal government prosecute him for violation of federal offenses, not a violation of state laws. It only becomes double jeopardy when you want triumph. If the federal government be decide for triumph on the same charges what the state convicted of, that would be double jeopardy. But it is not double jeopardy when the federal government steps in and say some of their action and they transgress on federal law and therefore they're going to prosecute him. So I just want to let people understand. So that will not be double jeopardy. So I yield back to you, sir. I just want to bring that.
You made that point because they talk about the committees then. Yeah. And this program we're talking about how to fix parliament. Yeah. Two things happened recently. After we broadcast, there was a statement by the chairman of the Political Affairs Committee, who is Honorable Kande Yumkela. And I will be mentioned on our last program. So because there was a motion moved in the House for say this PR system should be investigated by the Political Affairs Committee. The committee had started, they had met with certain witnesses, then work been they still go on. You understand?
Yeah.
So, on that grounds, because we want consultation, waiting at the purpose if a committee is sitting on a particular issue, we're boarding on national issue, then they're not done yet, then you go put a statutory instrument in the parliament, we go make that committee there in findings null and you can see. Then
and if it is
when you talk about
let me also ask you, if it is not null and void, is it not somewhat tainted when that happened? Even if it's not null and void, it affects the credibility of the committee in reports or in reporting. Isn't that correct?
Yes, you're right. We get somebody who's continuing shelling Abbas Bundu for not knowing exactly what to do in parliament. He hasn't forgotten how to articulate his grammar correctly. Anyway, as we say in this platform, we are not here to judge people. If you listen to me, the things about the courts now report, it's in public domain. And if you want to go find the reference, if you're a Facebook person, and one of the things that I don't do for Salone, which I could say I'm proud of, now me set up the Salone Parliamentary Watch Facebook page with 82,000 subscribers. So if you go there, you will see the full report of the speaker. You will also see the full report of the clerk. So another person can, what about if parliamentarian is suspended indefinitely and it exceeds 30 days? Is that person going to lose their seat? That is the question we're saying. Again, I answer that if you suspend the man indefinitely, right, and it exceeds that 30 days, right, it means, according to the law, he can no longer be a parliamentarian because you suspend them for what you will call contempt. But no, if you suspend them, according to the present law, he therefore go through the committee of privilege. And the committee of privilege therefore take your side of the story, take the side of the parliamentary administration, and make a decision within 30 days. So now that's not the issue. So again,
the
it come
question
back to that.
if
Yeah,
that's been done
that's
and supplementing this person in question, so if it has to be done within 30 days, then the
yeah.
speaker indoor suspend the person indefinitely. And it's reasonable to assume that indefinite suspension can exceed 30 days. So
I didn't understand
the
that.
whole thing becomes very confusing as to, because if the investigation, let's say the investigation took 29 days,
Yeah.
and this or 30 days, the committee made the reporting within 30 days, the 30th day. Also, there's a
But
provision that says,
there's also a technical issue. During the investigation, if he's in parliament answering to a query, that means he's in parliament. He's not away from parliament.
okay,
Yeah. That's the issue. Because if he's summoned before the committee, he's fulfilling his obligation to answer for a misdemeanor. So he's in parliament during that time. So you cannot use
Okay.
that rule to say, you know, you can get rid of him. But my point I'm making, until the committee decide on the case, some of those rulings that were made speaker is preempting the case. If we go, let's take an ordinary law. Is that if they accuse you for a crime, you understand? The prosecutor no wait before you go before a court of law. It don't already start punishing you before you face a judge. What do you call that? That's my simple analogy. Yeah, that's where I'm putting my argument.
Yeah, I agree. So you don't deprive the person of the presumption of innocence, right there.
Exactly. And it's against natural justice.
Yes.
So the other thing where it say, this way they talk now, na we already did na law, now implement another implementer and procedure. It said that for the avoidance of double, it talk about that with immediate effect, no strangers, I've been excluded as stranger, be allowed to enter the premises of parliament with mobile phones, drinks, and food items. That should be standard procedure.
Correct.
Because you don't go eat at the well, right? You don't go answer phone at the well. You understand? So if they're not going to do that, who do you put the blame on? It's the sergeant at arms, who is responsible for security. So he's reneging in his duty. You understand? For not applying that. Yeah. So let people do what they should be doing. Then finally, he say, he go ask the police, right, for
Yeah.
take appropriate action against the strangers that we've been there. He said, 7, that appropriate action shall be taken by the Salone police against strangers who participated in the incident of 23rd November. So it means again, they can forget evidence, either video evidence, pictorial evidence, for identify them people and they, and let the police prosecute them. So these are the speaker in ruling. So these are my summation based on my understanding of rules and procedures of parliament and the powers given to the different people, and in particular, the privilege committee. So we want to see what the privilege committee go do and how soon they go bring them member to justice. So that's the analysis of the speaker in ruling, the roles and responsibility of the different players, and now pause here. We got any more questions?
Let me let me just ask this question. So until then, the issue of whether any of these accused parliamentarians can be prosecuted can only happen when the speaker turns them over or accepts the police then request for turn them over for either investigation or prosecution. Am I right? So if the speaker say, just like
the speaker mentioned that that's a gray area in our constitution.
Yeah,
it talks about contempt. Contempt can be either through verbal or physical, right? So contempt of parliament can only be dealt with by parliament itself.
That's what I would think.
If you commit crime, if there's a crime in parliament, let's say, for instance,
let's say murder, a parliamentarian killed somebody.
Yeah, within the well of parliament.
Yeah.
Then that goes above, not even kill, if you injure somebody.
Okay.
GBH, grievous bodily harm. Law no go to
Yeah.
the extreme. Right? Then rightfully, not to the CID officer, now the speaker now can get the police coming or the law for coming for deal with that man because na crime he commits. That is how it should be.
All right. The other questions, sir, is when we see the pandemonium which take place in the parliament, and we see, say, the speaker was missing in action, we see, say, there's allegation that the sergeant at arms was among those involved in the physical exchange or throwing objects.
Yeah.
Well, the real problem is here that I see is the speaker, then the clerk took over some authority to call the shots. So I want to let you elaborate on the limitations or the power of the clerk. Did he, number one, did he have the authority to have given those directives that he gave while this commotion was taking place? And if he did, like calling the police to evict certain members of parliament, whether that was within his authority as a clerk of parliament. So I just wanted you to elaborate on that.
Okay, let's start from the first principle. if the Speaker or in deputy is not in the well of Parliament, you cannot conduct any parliamentary business. So if we go to the evidence of the Speaker, he said he had to seek refuge in his chamber. So to see at that time where the clerk order Delta 1 for pull them parliamentarian and cordon and lay the instrument, I'm yet to see whether the Speaker was in the house at that time. Unable in the video evidence. If he wasn't in the house at that time, then the clerk should not direct proceedings because that's not his powers. The other thing we should want to know is that when it comes to bringing in the outside help for Canquel security, remember, the clerk is head of administration, right?
In Parliament.
Yes, he can do that on the advice of the arms. If the sergeant at arms is not in control of the situation and he feels that there's threat to life and property, then they can invite the police. But that should be under the direction and advice of the sergeant at arms. But then in the same vein, we hear some, I don't know whether it's true or false, where one of the MPs say the sergeant at arms himself be involved. So all I could say, the whole thing that happened was a comedy of errors.
All right. Then I would like for Ole to show the video. Then I'll ask one more, another additional question. But I think I will request that we replay the video for refresh viewers the memory as to what transpired or the fracas will take place in Parliament. So if I can ask the control room for play the video for just show waiting, just give me a gist of what happened there that day.
The parliamentary right now. You see right now the APC and the start. You see.
This is going to be the first time police officers will be deployed in the well to ensure that safety goes on. So make sure you cordon this area and make sure people do not disrupt the city. If anybody disrupts the city by the standing orders of Parliament, that person should be outside the well. Okay? So you can get your men to cordon this area so that city will come. Please do it quickly. Indeed.
We have only covered this section of the well to ensure that cities go on. However, if you are still noisy, the noisy MPs will be taken out. The noisy MPs will be taken out. We have only covered. Hello, officers. Delta 1. It may seem we are not getting control. Please, Delta 1, let your men get them out. Get them out, please. Delta 1, get them out. 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 Get them out.
Okay, Mr. Shilon, one thing we point out, and one thing we are clarifying at the video, at the time, whether ended in the Apple, the speaker was on seat. The speaker was on seat. Because like I said earlier on, him therefore take refuge in chambers. Right?
Yeah.
From the time the fracas begin to the time where we see police come inside, I don't know who side the speaker in chambers been there. Whether he been going to the chambers, he come back,
Yeah.
or he was still there. These are the video evidence we'll get for look at.
And my question is, if he was still... Go ahead, go ahead.
But the other thing where you go see, when I'm your concern is that the same law say if there's chaos or standing order, if there's chaos in parliament, and this chaos, from what you see, it was not just coming from one side. Why didn't the speaker adjourn parliament at that time, but was there to ensure that the statutory instrument was laid down? For me, it was not a good judgment on his part. Because he could have adjourned parliament.
Correct.
He has the right. That is his powers. But he is sitting there, watching the clerk like the regimental sergeant major, directing everything so that they could lay the papers. For me, I think that is, it leaves a lot of things to be, questions to be answered.
Yeah, I think procedurally, it seems to, they get a lot of errors here because whether he was there or not, the clerk, it seems to me, way exceed in power. And then directives and they will be I don't think it vested in them in any way, shape, or form. Then in talking about trying to improve the system, again, going back to the clerk, I keep insisting on that. Just the sheer fact that the clerk is appointed by the president is a very serious error, because nowhere in the world do I know of, not England, not America, not Australia, not anywhere, where the executive can appoint someone to a position at the legislature.
Not just position, to be the head of administration of the legislature.
Administration, not the legislature. I don't know how they conceived that idea there, but it's very ill-conceived. So it doesn't make any sense. If we talk about making sure things work, I think that's one area they should think over and think about. And all this is being said from me own perspective about what is good for the country. Because what you would see is the fact that, governments come and go, then they try for skew rules, regulations, acts, legislations for suit the political party in power. The ultimate victim of them bad laws there or them bad procedure there, now the country. You see? So some of these laws are not being passed in what is in the best interest of the country. It seems like some of these laws are being passed strictly for benefit one party, for give one party not only an advantage, but undue advantage, something way counterproductive. So these are some of the things, in my view, we parliamentarians them, we politicians them, the political parties them, even though I know the primary motivation not to that, but that is what it should be. Make laws that are good for posterity, for generations on board, not to waiting good for the moment. Because we see we're not getting anywhere with the bad procedures there, and then we try for rise up to international standards. So these are some of the things. So I want people to understand, say, a lot of them things that we would talk about, we're not to anti or pro whatever political party. At least for me, the country It's what I am concerned about, the well-being of the country, because I don't identify myself abroad other than I'm a Sierra Leonean to anyone. And interestingly enough, hardly anybody they ask any of we say, what country are you from? You say I'm from Sierra Leone. Then they follow it up with a question of what tribe or what political party do you belong to? Nobody asks that. People just want to know, where are you from? You say I'm from Sierra Leone. Okay, people then want to know about your country in general, not what ethnic group you belong to, not what political party you belong to. So I still don't get it why people are so hung up on this political party affiliation to the point of them being so dense they can't see through the fact that the country is being pushed downward at all the time. This is the thing we keep telling people. Because some of them parliamentary laws there, the people that we write them, these are very highly educated people. They know better. But they were just trying to please the party in power, and with the CSA now, we're not the benefit way. So these are just comments I want to make. I think we had a caller. Maybe let me just take that, Mr. Mengo, then I yield to you. Hello, caller. What's your name? Who's the call from?
This is Ezekiel. I call from Washington State.
Yeah, Mr. Ezekiel. Nice talking to you.
Yes, sir. I think I get a question quick concerning if we look at the video, we see how the police malhandle the members of parliament. If we look at the fracas we happened between them, we not see any parliamentarian way them pushed to the ground. But the police did that to parliamentarians. Some of them were dropped on the ground, they almost trampled. Some, the parliamentarians who, where this thing happened to them, get the right to sue the police for that kind of behavior. If the one of the parliamentarians, forget the clerk, where they say una kick them out, una pull them out rather. If you see that they happen to EU side, because this is how I see them. If not to EU side parliamentarian, where the police then push on the ground, will he be happy with it? I don't say they all be angry about what happened, but at the same time, I think the instruction for them be arrest the one way they resist. So if we they see the one arrest, then the person they fight, now they can take the fight to her. The police get the right for the other way they resist arrest. In fact, that can be one of the criteria for taking them action against them for arrest them. They resist arrest. But they're not one. Then just they were fighting them, basically push them to the ground. Is that right? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling. Well, you know, that's a good question, because the orders were given by the clerk, who presumably no get the authority for give the orders we give. And unfortunately, the police then comply or follow with the orders. I am not sure, all things being equal, the police per se or the individual police officers can be sued. But I'm not so sure, because this happened within the walls of parliament. Well, you see, the whole thing about lawyering is creativity. I'm not so sure whether the clerk who gave the authority is as protected. He may be. He may have some immunity from giving this unauthorized order. But the police then, I can almost say for sure, cannot be sued, because they were just following orders, even though the orders may have been unlawful, but they have reason to believe that the orders were lawful. You know, that's to the extent to which I go comment on that. You know, so it's unfortunate. Yeah, it appears as if one set of politicians were targeted by the police, and they were definitely manhandled. But again, these are the kind of things we will foresee, we analyze, and try for make it not happen again. and let the officials, the speaker, the sergeant at arms, the deputy speaker, and this is another question. Maybe Mr. Mengo go clarify that for we. When the speaker was there, if he presumably was there when this was happening at the beginning, where was the deputy speaker? Because nothing is even said about him. Well, it seems to me, if in the absence of the speaker and the deputy speaker, for take control. And then again, we need to just, when we analyze this after it's all done, we just get for come. I hope the powers to be could come up with recommendations, way not to necessarily for punish people, but for improve the system and create the necessary decorum, or for make them get a smooth operation of parliament. I hope that will be the goal. The goal not to forbid for take political strike or political retaliation against a group. It serves no useful purpose. It just makes matters worse. So that's all I can say about that. I don't know, Mr. Menga, if you get any comments, sir.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. Now, I think we're coming to the tail end of the program, so let's go back to the question: does our parliament need reform? And I want to
Correct.
make a few suggestions for roundup. Let's start with the committee system, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I will say to people here, I was a member of the clerks department in the House of Commons, a job I did for 4 years. And I will tell you how we committee Naya the work, which is the same way we committee then a Salone the work.
For work.
Yeah, for work. Let's say you're a clerk of parliament. It is a career job, right? The existing clerks, the way they did it, they've been working in parliament for a long time. And the problem is, in Sierra Leone, we get clerks them where one clerk, they're in charge of 4 or 5 committees. So we need for strengthen and capacity build parliament, forget normal people them where they go into parliament as officials and public servants under a career progression. Because how the system works, they go out and get the best graduates. And then when they take you, you become a junior clerk. As a junior clerk, you are being supervised by a senior clerk. So you get a probationary period. Then after, you now become clerk of different committee. And let me come back. We get 3 sets of committees them. We get the standing committees them, whether they by law, 9 day now constitution, and there are 7. Let's go back to them. The legislative committee, when they can do the pre-legislation and all the rest of it before you go to the full house. The finance committee, mostly they deal with the budget and also things for do with parliament. Then committee of appointment of public servants. We know about that. In the whole history of this parliament, now one green person don't ever go in a parliament where they appoint, where later on, then petition them, a lost in job. Then I'm in the case of one lady where they may recommend for be ombudsman. But every other one they will go are just rubber stamp. And now the horse trading they take place from both the opposition and the ruling party. So anybody will go. Right? Then they are, yeah. Then you get the Foreign Affairs and International Committee. Okay, why are they important? In the Constitution, they say government not for enter into any loan agreement or finance with a foreign government or industry without first seeking the approval of parliament. It did it. But in one case, they don't go do the deal, right? Don't sign contract. Then they can't give parliament for say we don't do it. People can correct me if I'm wrong. And I stand by that. Then we get the next committee. When at the committee, the Public Accounts Committee, then they don't, I don't have much to say about it. But let me tell you what is wrong with that system. Right? The Public Accounts Committee, the chair of the Public Accounts Committee is the Deputy Speaker. In most Commonwealth parliamentary place, the Public Accounts Committee is always chaired by a senior member of parties that are not in government. Like people we don't say in a parliament, we understand.
And is this to maintain checks and balances or what?
Why is it so? Checks and balances, because if the man where Ninde in charge of Public Accounts Committee is from the government bench, Nango decide the program for the committee. That is why we have not had any of these audit reports investigated in Parliament. Because the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, now they decide, and the audit committee, audit report, as I tell you, is a report of Parliament. The one that will stand in order. When they present the audit report to Parliament, they don't lay on a table. It's supposed to go to the Public Accounts Committee for scrutiny. And the law strictly say, no other institution don't forget anything for do with that report day, unless through the approval of Parliament. And I remember when the ACC commissioner was doing that, I wrote a piece in my parliamentary watch pointing out that fact. It was thereafter that the commissioner came back and said, then they do them with the Parliament and in cooperation with Parliament. But even at that, the Public Accounts Committee, now for look at the audit report there, and if need be, bring the ACC commissioner as a witness if there is some semblance of corruption based on his job. Then if after the committee don't report, now then go recommend now to ACC for investigate, not the other way around. The only case we don't see the Public Accounts Committee don't look at in this Parliament, now the case for do with the mayor. And why? We know all the reason why. So that committee needs a serious overhaul. Then again, you get a standing order committee as well. What's in that committee? Parliament gets standing orders then. You understand?
Yeah.
When they stand in orders then they now make the rules of Parliament. Right? But also, another key committee, now the business committee. The business committee, now they deal with the issues the way the House they debate. And who stand in their lineup. Because that committee there, you get the leader of government business, you get the leader of opposition, you get the other leader then, and then they decide. Normally, government bills take privileges. So if that business committee were pertinent an issue, they not decide say if we go na the other paper. Because the other paper now they tell you waiting at the thing the way they discuss. You know go. So that's another area where we get the weakness. And going back to the clerk's department, when I worked there as a specialist, because I went there as a subject specialist, one of the things you have to be politically neutral. You don't get to be a member of any political party. Now make sure we're not the last day for long as specialists, because they now restrict your freedom in being active in politics. So when you're employed, they give you a 1-year contract. After the 1 year, you are assessed. Give you a further 1 year. After that, you're also assessed. If you make the grade, they give you a final 2 year. 4 years is enough. You're out. But the clerks of parliament, they should not be members of trade unions. They should not be members of political parties. They have to be politically neutral. So again, that career progression and they get for the clerk. So all the committee then they, apart from the neutrality of the people the way they did, they also need technical support. And like me, when I was a subject specialist as a transport man, not to everything I go know. Me go guide them. If we get, like for instance, I remember when we were in parliament, we did an inquiry on transport-related atmospheric pollution. And then they go very topical now because of the greenhouse gas and everything.
Right? Where was this? In England or in Sierra Leone?
In the House of Commons.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Then I can gain my own experience in making laws in the parliament in Kenya. So I'll just give you 2 examples. So what we did was that we had a list of specialists from industries, from academia. We will ask them to send their profile and everything. I sit with the MPs, then we look at them. We then appoint them as technical advisor for that inquiry only. But we get somewhere in our books. So when we deal with their subject matter, then we get advisors the way they can, where they advise the MPs. We as the technical man, now we draft the questions and when they ask witnesses them. Because before you get an inquiry, first of all, you have to put out a public notice. Any committee, you call for papers. Anybody can write and submit written evidence. From the written evidence, we review them, we call witnesses then, where they can give oral evidence. So, we take the oral and the written evidence, now they use, they will do the heads of reports. Waiting the parliamentary report go deeper. Then you don't go put anything in that report there where you not refer to that as evidence. So that's where you have footnotes. So if you put something, even the language where they use, if you were to draft the report, you can say there is the likelihood. Yeah, that if I do A, B will happen. That means it is not based on evidence. You are expressing an opinion. And if you express your opinion, you get to qualify that opinion. So these are the training we receive. MPs also have researchers. This was something I suggested in Sierra Leone, using university graduates for they do research for MPs then. So that when they go to the well of parliament, they're able to articulate themselves. You also get the parliamentary library with researchers then where they can go for help too. Because technical issues, where they discuss them with your political agenda, is 2 different things. And I'll tell you, for show you the clerk, when we were working as a clerk, you'll be there as a technical man. One opposition man who can tell you, say, I already say that party they na so thing they want to do. Advise me how I can able to articulate myself. Then the same party say, the other side can come to you and ask you how you are able to help her. The other last recommendation I want to make for improving parliament, in most parliament, they get opposition, they debates them. Where the opposition, they debate, they allocate time to the opposition where they can bring any subject matter for discussion. So let's give the other side let them bring issues them. If we get that kind of system there, some of them fracas will take place. Then the other thing now, for deal with private members' bill, we see how Dr. Kanda Yumkala was trying to push a private member's bill on the role of diaspora. How you get for lobby hard and everything. These are not for be things that way for be difficult. Then my final suggestion, a very important committee in the parliament, that the committee public petitions. What does that mean? It means that if there's any burning issue for any member of parliament or any member of the electorate or citizen of Sierra Leone, if it gets the required support and signature, it can go and put a petition to parliament for parliament to look into their concern, and they make that committee there, a public petition committee, for get people them involved in parliament. So if I them, I know say this in a long session, we don't go through a lot. And for end, we say, does our parliament need an urgent reform? Based on what we don't discuss, I think the answer is definitely yes. But who should do it? It is our collective responsibility. But for that, the key task, now for there we go back to a complete review of our constitution, followed by a referendum. So I think saying that's I get for say tonight.